and the actual procedures when it comes to gender, sex, and sexuality, because they are different things, okay? And they have legally recognized definitions. So, gender is the socially constructed one. It is how you feel about yourself. It isn't your genitals. It's nothing to do with your genitals. So imagine I've got an outline of a person. Their gender identity, so how they feel about themselves, is the inside bit. So imagine the inside of that person's glowing. Yeah, it can be whatever color you like. It can be pink, it can be blue, doesn't matter. Got that in your mind? Yeah, fairly clear. So here's the actual recognized kind of definition: is a person's deeply felt inherent sense of being a boy, a man, a male, a girl, a woman, a female, or an alternative gender, which may or may not correspond with the person's sex assigned at birth, or assumed at birth is what we use now. Okay? Your identity is your understanding of yourself. It's how you feel. No one can tell you how to feel. You have to make that decision for yourself. Your gender identity is literally up to you. This is not science. It is feeling, okay? It's so important to understand that gender and sex are not the same thing, okay? Now, expression, sorry, my voice is really going, is the outside stuff. It's the stuff you can see. It's the stuff that's tangible to the eye, to the nose, to the ears. It's how someone presents, how they walk, how they talk, how they express themselves. It could be anything within that area. And that might be different to how they feel about themselves, okay? Sometimes I'll express myself in a suit. Sometimes I will wear the most feminine, bright pink thing I can find in my wardrobe. It really depends how I'm feeling that day, if I'm honest. And today I felt like wearing black, mostly because my throat hurts and I felt sad. Yeah. So sex versus gender identity, they're used interchangeably, but they are not the same thing, okay? Gender identity refers to how you define yourself. Your sex is your biology and is dictated by your chromosome composition. Does that make sense? Is that absolutely crystal clear for everybody? Because the thing I get asked the most is this, because people get terrified of getting it wrong and no one gives you a guide on how to understand it, especially if you're not part of the community. And I think that's so unfair, especially if you're outside the community and you want to be a good ally, you want to understand it, you want to be a good friend, colleague, whatever, but nobody's actually giving you the chance to learn. So I hope this is valuable. All right. So sexuality, this one's fairly straightforward. It's who you're attracted to, whether it be sexually, emotionally, or romantically. Yeah, easy peasy. And there's just a bit for you as well. You get all these slides, so don't worry. So one thing that I must stress is sexual fluidity. You don't just come out and that's it for the rest of your life. You don't suddenly step out the closet one day and go, I'm gay, and then that person is gay for the rest of their life. It's not how it works. Sexuality is fluid, it changes. And I'm always happy to share my own experiences. So I grew up in a very, very small village in the Forest of Dean in Gloucestershire. I didn't have any resources, I didn't have any support. And when I was 11, I really liked a boy at school. So I thought I was gay. So I came out as gay because I thought that was the only option. I was like, if I like a boy, that means I have to be gay and I can't be anything else, because I didn't have the books, I didn't have the resources, and I didn't have the support. Okay, it's very different now. It's really important to understand that the journey doesn't stop at you either come out or you don't come out. I'm sure many of you have heard cases of people who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s who come out at that age. Most of the time, it's because they couldn't. For those of you who are familiar with Section 28, which I know Louise is briefing on a timeline later, you couldn't come out. It was literally illegal. Okay, it's really important from a historical lens to understand that actually, if you're working with these people who potentially have dementia, these are their lived experiences. Okay, I'm at risk for dementia. So in 20, 30 years, I might have to relive coming out twice again. Does that give you some context? So it could be me that you end up working with. It might not, but you never know. Okay. Pronouns aren't just he, she, we. The English language is ever so entertaining sometimes, but people don't realize that they're pronouns too. When I learned that, I was like, what? Everything I know is a lie. Yeah. I've had to learn these things the same way you guys are learning now. Okay. I wasn't born an expert, imagine. Be making bank now. Yeah. So the straightforward ones, he, she, they, we. They and them are used in what kind of context? Gender neutral. Yeah. You can refer to anyone as they and them because you might say, oh, I'm going to go and see them, or, oh, they're just over there. We use it in all kinds of contexts. So I've put a few little sheets in here that you can use at home and stuff like that to how you construct pronouns into a sentence, because especially, and I've had this a lot, is I've worked with people where English isn't their first language. They don't get this kind of guide. And I find that wild that it isn't taught in schools, that someone doesn't give you an understanding of how to put it in a sentence, like the absolute fundamentals of language. So you've got he, and you've also got things like they and them. Does anyone know what they and them pronouns are used for? I'm not going to go into neopronouns too much. They are a different form of gender-neutral pronoun. This is where someone doesn't use they and them, because they and them, realistically, are actually quite general, quite generalized words. And it basically gives someone their own kind of sense of pronoun, because we have like he and him and she and her, but they and them actually can be quite generalizing for some people. So they want their own, which is why these were created. So it actually gives them a sense of identity, yeah? But these are just your subjective, adjective, possessive pronoun, and reflexive. I have, no, that's not the one I wanted. There we go. This is a little cheat sheet that we use with our younger people that they work through with parents, but you can use it as well. It just shows you how to format it into a sentence. And like, even though this is designed for young people, I know grown-ups who have benefited from this massively, because it just gives them a context and an understanding and an example of why it's important to understand this. Because it is easy to make mistakes. I make mistakes. I use the wrong pronouns all the time sometimes. You are allowed to make mistakes. It is important that we make mistakes because otherwise we don't learn. Okay? We seldom learn from getting everything perfect all the time. Okay? So, do ask for someone's pronouns politely. Please and thank you goes a long way. If you are nervous about asking someone's pronouns, and I understand if you're not used to it, it can be intimidating, but there are things you can put in place to do so. For example, I'll introduce myself first. Hello, my name is Jay, and my pronouns are he, they. And that rhymes, I know. It's great. Yeah? Do be aware and try not to assume people's pronouns, right? Remember what I said at the start? Assumptions and perceptions. We are literally hardwired to make assumptions. Why? Because we're programmed to survive. Our brain naturally makes assumptions about spaces and people the moment you walk in a room. That is fine. You cannot unprogram that. But what you can do is bring a self-awareness to yourself that you are making assumptions about a person. We make assumptions based on what people wear, how they dress. The exact same context works. Just because someone presents a certain way doesn't mean that they're that kind of person. You may look at someone and think, oh, they look a bit rude. And then they open their mouth and you're like, oh, you're lovely. Has anyone ever done that? Because I've done that many times. I've looked at someone and I've gone, God, they look rude. And then they open their mouth and I'm like, they're really nice. I feel bad now. Same thing works with context when it comes to gender identity. And this one is the most important. Do not panic if you make a mistake. Right. Let's say you've accidentally used the wrong pronouns and you didn't mean to. Do not give out this long 10-minute apology because it makes it worse. I've done it before. I've used the wrong pronoun or the used name before. and I feel really guilty, and I'll go off on this big talk about how I'm trying and I'm learning. It's not about me. Your focus should be the person that you've just misgendered, not you. It's not about you. It is about them. Short, sweet apology. I'm sorry. You can ask for correction. So say something like, oh, what were your pronouns again? What was your name again? It's not about you. It is about them, because you're creating what's called a micro trauma, and they add up. You need to make it as short of a time span as possible. Short, sweet apology, correct yourself or ask for correction, move on. Okay? I know it's really tempting to give out this huge apology so someone understands that you are genuinely sorry, but you're actually making it worse. Okay? It is about generational divide, I'm afraid. Because in the 70s and 80s, this was appropriated. The word queer has been around a really long time. It's been used by the community for a really long time. So have other certain words that I'm not going to use personally, but for some people, it's not a derogatory term. And in fact, for most young people now who identify as such, queer is their word. I identify as queer. I say I'm part of the queer community. Why? Because queer just means non-heteronormative. It's an umbrella term. Instead of me having to tell someone, oh, I'm LGBTQ+, I just say I'm queer. It's just easier. We did a survey with our young people, not last year, the year before, and we asked about 40 of our young people, oh, we're doing a survey, what do you want us to call it? Do you want us to call it an LGBTQ+ survey? What do you want to call it? And they were like, can't we just call it a queer survey? It's just easier. Which is quite interesting that we've gone kind of out like this and found all these definitions, and now we're doing this. Language is ever so amusing, because I know for a fact that that'll change in another 50 years. And I have to explain this to people a lot. There are a lot of terms, but the terms are there to help someone discover themselves, not to explain to everybody else. The first thing it is used for is someone can understand what's going on here. That's the main thing. That's the priority, is mental well-being. And if you don't know what you are or how you identify or why you feel that way, it's very confusing and it's very frustrating. That's why all the terms exist. Because even though we all say, oh, I don't like to be put in a box, or I don't like labels. Like, did anyone have like the cliques in school? You had the chavs, the emo kids, the goths, the jocks, the cheer team. Yeah. It's the same kind of thing. Oh, I don't want to fit into a label. I'm too cool for a label. Everyone fits into a label. Because it's how you understand yourself. We crave the what am I, the what if, the I need to understand myself. That's why the terms exist. Yeah, but it's more so people can understand themselves. Whereas if I just tell you I am queer, it's me just telling you that I'm part of the community, and that's all you really need to know. Because being an LGBTQ+ person, does it affect my ability to be a good employee? No. Does it affect my ability to be a good friend? No. A good parent? Absolutely not. Yeah. Doesn't affect any of that. Make sense? Mm-hmm. But queer is, in terms of a generational understanding, is really important in this context, because what happens if you've got someone who's got dementia and they regress to a point of where it was Section 28 and it was illegal for them to be out